Alright, stream should be live. I still need 2 minutes to pull up chat, do a Discord announcement, yada yada. So if you're watching the VOD, feel free to skip the first 2 minutes, because those first 2 minutes are always setup time. Let's see, I pulled up the chat. Discord announcement is underway and done. I just gotta configure some settings and then it'll be good to go. I also have to make a playlist for this game at some point. This is my first playthrough. My first day streaming it, I should say, so don't quite need a playlist just yet, but by next week we will. Apparently this is a 2016 game. This game is 7 years old. Okay. I think we're good to go. What's going on, Zeno? How you doing, bud? What's going on, Click? How you doing, bud? It was spring when Sarah's school life began, but spring in London was nothing like any spring she had known before. The morning sun was not enough to lift a chill from the stony streets, and the mist off the river blended with the smoke of countless chimneys to form a thick, yellow fog. That sounds like Canadian wildfire right there. In such weather, the gas lamps burned night and day, flickering like stars to guide the horse-drawn ships to their destinations. But the ship that had carried her across the ocean was now a thing of the past. Here, then, was Sarah's new home. I'm doing well. I touched the grass today. There's some pictures in the Discord of all the food I ate. It was like a whole 5-hour trip. I went to this town that's... yeah, town I think is a good way to call it. That's like an hour away, basically. I went to a bakery. I got some marble pound cake and... what else did I get? Almond, like, cinnamon roll type thing. And I went to the Japanese mart, got some melon pan and some cute little kitten cat plushies for my cousins. It's been a good day for me. Had Chipotle chicken pizza. How are you doing, Zeno? What's the latest? It was a big, dull brick house, exactly like all the others in its row, except that on the front door, they shone a brass plate with which was engraved in black letters. Miss Minchin's Select Seminary for Young Ladies. What the heck is a seminary? Should I look that up? Is that like a church thing? I mean, clearly it's some sort of like all-girls school or all-girls setting, it sounds like. Seminary is a school of theology. Yeah, like a church school. Okay. What's going on, Devarain? I got Kazuha and Genshin. Dang, bro, did you whale? Girls, get her around if you please. Come, hurry up. We have a new pupil who will be joining us, starting today. Her name is Sarah Crew, and she is only recently arrived in England, so you must all make her feel welcome. How do you do? The room filled with a chorus of gently murmured greetings. Sarah Crew, for that was her name, looked out upon a garden of strangers. Every face was turned to her, polite and attentive and perfectly foreign. I like the word choice so far in this visual novel. Garden of Strangers. That's quite the metaphor. Like, even in the beginning I felt it, like it was easy to read. But, yeah, this is good so far. She felt more lost than she had ever been at sea. Sarah, dear, as you can see, we have pupils here of all levels, but these three are particularly near your age. This is Miss Lavinia Herbert. I like how her name sounds like sherbet ice cream. Or is it sherbet? I don't know. But it reminds me of ice cream. Charmed. Miss Ermengarde St. John. Oh, she has Saint in her name. Jesus Christ. She looks like a farm girl. Probably belongs in Goblin Slayer. Ah. when summer is, I think summer officially starts in like 2 days, right? Like June 20th. Yeah, football break soon. Nice. No whaling. And Miss Jussie Abbott. Okay, Jussie Abbott is probably my favorite so far. If Egrom were here, I think he would simp. I should probably take a screenshot just for Egrom. He likes red hair waifus. We're very pleased to meet you. I'm very pleased to meet you as well. I have never known very many girls near my age. Chocolate! Oh my god. Are you here for a slice of my Chipotle chicken pizza? How you doing, Chocolate? Sarah's life before that point had been isolated but sheltered. Her mother had died when she was born, leaving Sarah to be raised by the young, handsome father, who was the only relation she had ever known. Some fathers had little time for their children, but Sarah and her papa had always been quite close, reading books and playing games together every day. He treated her as a little confidant, sharing his thoughts with her as if she were his peer and not a very young girl, and listened solemnly to the advice she gave in return, though he didn't always follow it. Sarah had never felt lonely, but it must be said that she had very little experience in making new friends. Alright, so she's an introvert. Sarah's father, Captain Crew, makes his home in India, and he is returning there as we speak. You know what's funny about this? That I was literally just looking at a menu for Indian food, because I'm thinking of getting Indian food within the next month, because there's a really good quality restaurant I just found out along my route to the place that I went today. So, yeah, they got like everything. They got lamb, chicken, goat. Oh man, the menu sounded amazing, so I shall expect you all to be very agreeable to her. Yes, I am. Oh god. Not like this, Chocolate. Anything but my Chipotle chicken pizza and melon pan. The melon pan was interesting. I haven't had melon pan in like 9 years, maybe? I remember I was dating this girl at the time. And, you know, she was into all the Japanese stuff like me. And she was obsessed with melon pan for some reason. So she took me to a place that sold it. And, you know, since it was 9 years ago, I don't quite remember my impression of it, I guess you could say. Like, I just remember it being okay. So I tried it again today. And it's somewhere in between okay and very good. Because it's like a weird mix of, imagine a sugar cookie having intercourse with a piece of bread that is also half cake. Right? And that's what the melon pan in my picture is. It's like sugar cookie meets bread meets cake. It's very odd, but also somewhat good. Would I buy it often? No. Would I buy it again? Most likely. Now, Sarah, take your seat. Your father has informed me how very much you enjoy your studies, and I expect you to be a credit to this establishment. Hope you feel better soon, Zeno. I see you've got some injuries. That's a very broad category. Yeah, it's a very odd, I don't even know what you would call it. Snack? Dessert? It doesn't really quite feel like a dessert. Definitely a snack. So it's a very interesting thing. You know what else they had? They had because this was a Japanese mart. They had like a $5 yakisoba sandwich. And I was so tempted to try it because, you know, $5 isn't all that expensive. And I've never had anything yakisoba before. I've had like ramen and udon, but not yakisoba. So I was like, man, maybe I should try it. But at the same time, like, I don't know how much I trusted like a pre-wrapped sandwich. I don't know, man. I think the Chipotle chicken pizza was a better buy. I'm not certain how to become a credit, but I do wish to learn. His statement was met with muffled giggles. Confused, Sarah looked back at Miss Minchin for guidance. Take your seat, I said. But which seat is mine? Concerned that she would look disobedient if she hesitated further, she slid into the nearest empty place. No one objected, and she let out a sigh of relief. Nearby, two girls turned to whisper to each other. What a way she has of speaking, so old-fashioned. Hush. And her eyes are such a queer color. A funny-looking child, to be sure. Aren't her eyes the same color as the redhead girl's eyes? They're both green. Imagine saying to a green-eyed girl that another green-eyed girl has weird colored eyes. It's like, bitch, what are you saying about me? Well, she isn't pretty as other pretty people are, but there is something about her. She makes you want to look at her again, to see what it is. And she has tremendously long eyelashes. Only you would notice such a thing. Girls, kindly pay attention to your lessons. Why did she phrase that as a question and not a command? Yes, Miss Minchin. What the heck is this? Choose an activity for Sarah to perform each day. Oh, wow. Whoa. This is a different kind of visual novel. We got some whole, like, Fire Emblem SHIT going on here. Every activity has 3 possible outcomes, which will change the icons you receive. At the end of the week, Sarah's icons will be collected and turned into resources. That is, whatever you say, boss. Oh, there's a lot of things I could do. Oh, God. Can I choose more than one thing per day or just one? I have a tea party. I could go for a walk. That sounds good. Play with toys. At her age, I don't think so. Practice dance. Probably has 2 left feet. Alright, we're gonna read a book. Let's see if we can pick 2 things. No, we can only pick 1 thing. Oh, God. I don't think we have any friends yet, so I don't think having a tea party would make any sense. So we're gonna read a book, right? Tuesday we'll go for a walk, get some exercise, you know. Flex. Practice dance. Play with toys, because we're gonna assume that toys in this sense is like video games. I think she deserves a day of video games. And then at the end of the week, she'll write about everything that she did in her diary. And then next week, when we have friends, then we can have a tea party. Now the schedule that you have will be carried out. For each weekday, Sarah will point to the randomly chosen result, and those icons will appear on the right side of the screen. You do not have to press to advance between days, it will happen automatically. You can adjust the speed of activities from the preferences menu. Whatever you say, boss. She's reading! Walking! Wow, her week is going by fast, bro. Dancing! Playing! Writing! I feel like 1 or 2 of those days actually didn't lead to me gaining anything. Like Tuesday and Wednesday looked empty. I don't know, bro. She might be a lazy walker. Kind of hard smurfing in Genshin. What does it mean to smurf in Genshin? Full read book every day? I mean, it might just be a manga. Probably only took her an hour. My room, my 2 rooms, just for me. Sarah was what was known as a parlor boarder. While other girls were quartered in standard issue single rooms, she had a large bedroom, uniquely decorated, and a separate sitting room with a comfortable sofa. Okay, so she's getting the luxury room. She's getting the premium penthouse condominium up top. My papa has filled them with beautiful things. Books, velvet cushions, lace dresses, a porcelain tea set, even though she has no friends to have a tea party with. Hats with great feathers that bob on them. Even a tiger rug to remind me of India. That reminds me of Psyche K. I think it was like episode 6 or something when his parents were like trying to fix their living accommodations. And the dad was like, you know what would be great? Tiger rug. Wait, why is Chocolate freaking out about vigor? It looks like a room that would belong to the daughter of a Raja, an Indian princess. I only wish that this room also contained my papa. Whoa! Whoa! Incest fetish. Relax, girl, relax. You're acting a lot like Azure right now. Perhaps it does. He gave me all of these things, and whenever I touch them, I can imagine that he is with me. Oh! Oh! Coming on a little strong there, girly. What's mama gonna think? And when I read his farewell letter, I can hear his voice. My dear little missus, so here you are, in the place you always knew you must go. But be of good cheer. You will not have to stay for a very long time. There will be a lot of little girls. Oh, God. Why couldn't he just say, there will be a lot of girls? He had to make things weird, man. And you will play together. Oh, God. And I will send you plenty of books. Kama Sutras, and you will grow so fast that it will seem scarcely a year before you are big enough and clever enough to come back and take care of Papa. Oh god, Papa wants to be taken care of tonight. I'm not in the least anxious about your education. You're always sitting with your little nose, burrowing into books, gobbling them up as if you were a little wolf instead of a little girl. Man, what's up with all this kinky foreplay going on here? I have instructed Miss Minchin to drag you away from your books when you read too much and make you go and ride your pony in row or buy a new doll. You ought to play more with dolls. You know what, Click? I got a recommendation for you if you want some more lolly content. Check out this manga called Witch Hat Atelier. It's all about little lolly witches trying to fight some evil witches. Pretty good. I read the first, I think, 5 volumes so far. I think there are only 8 volumes printed in English at the moment. So I'm very close to reading everything that's available. I'm happiest with just Emily, and happier because I was with you when I met her. Emily, of course, was the name of a doll. A very special doll that Sarah had discovered when her papa took her to visit the premier toy shops of London. She was a large doll, but not too large to carry about easily. She had naturally curling golden brown hair, which hung like a mantle about her. That sounds like Tetia from Witch Hat Atelier. Curling golden brown hair. And her eyes were deep, clear, grey blue with soft, thick eyelashes, which were real eyelashes and not mere painted lines. Okay, that's maybe a little bit creepy. At Sarah's insistence, she had been given a wardrobe every bit as grand as Sarah's own, with frocks and coats, and nightgowns and beautiful lace-trimmed underthings. She even had her own tiny lady's handkerchief, and her own cradle bed at the foot of Sarah's. Also, arigato to whoever left a like so far on the stream. Sarah, you know what? This doll, if Cold Steel were here, he would know what I'm talking about. But this doll looks like one of Maribel's dolls from Trails of Azure. There was like a whole side mission where you had to retrieve a stolen doll of hers. Sarah lifted Emily up onto her lap and smiled at her just as she would another little girl. My papa's on the sea now, Emily. We must be very great friends to each other, intimate friends, and tell each other things. Look at me, Emily. You have the nicest eyes I ever saw, but I wish you could speak. She brushed Emily's hair fondly, settling her in pride of place. There's so many girls in this school. I have never seen so many children in one place before. I am afraid I shall not even remember all of their names. I've always known that someday I would be required to go away, to leave my home and my papa and come to England to be educated. I must do my duty even if I do not like it. I dare say soldiers, even brave ones, don't really like going into battle, but they must do it anyway, and not cry and fuss. So must I, but oh, it is so lonely. She could not know, of course, how her quiet sorrow might be misinterpreted by others. Miss Minchin, the proprietor, had seen the lavish preparations for Sarah's pretty little room and concluded that here was a child who had always been given her own way at the expense of others. Nico, you remember I had a tournament in football? I remember. Did it already occur? Did you win? Such a spoiled little girl might be expected to kick and scream and set the whole house into an uproar when abandoned by her only parent. That she did not suggested to Miss Minchin that Sarah cared nothing at all for her papa, but only for her dresses and toys. Such was not a thought that inspired sympathy in her heart for the newcomer. Just then, there came a sound at the door of Sarah's room. Sarah was not a girl easily given to fear or startlement, but she had a healthy share of curiosity and went at once to see what it was. Outside sat a little girl, right on her bottom in the middle of the hall. Is this like a little girl that she could talk to or another doll? Because it looks like a freaking doll. Her baby plump legs. Why is that a phrase? Baby plump? Oh god. Splayed, and the lace of her petticoats askew as if she had just toppled over, which in fact she had. Have a nice night, Zeno. Soldier. Seems our MC is an interesting MC. She's not a soldier. She's just a schoolgirl. But she was making a reference, a metaphor, a comparison. I don't know what you want to call it. She was making a comparison of sorts. Hello there. Who might you be? I'm Lottie. Why do you look like you're 5, Lottie? Not even 2. Her words were hard to make out through the fingers she had shoved into her mouth. Lottie? The fingers were drawn and wiped dry among the frills of her skirt. Lottie lay. Sarah smiled. Here, then, was a chance to meet just one person at a time, instead of a crowd of strangers. This is getting weird. It is getting weird. I don't know why this girl is 2 years old, but we'll see. Well then, I am Sarah Crew, and now we are properly introduced. Well, they did say that this is like a school that has girls of like a bunch of different ages. So I guess it's like how in like some villages maybe where there's not a lot of schools nearby. There's like maybe only one local school. All the children have to attend that same one school. I guess it's kind of like that kind of vibe. She held out a hand and helped the little girl to her feet. Was there something you wanted? May I look at your doll? Of course you may. Come and visit me in my room, and we can have tea together. My papa left me a beautiful tea set with lilies painted on it. Okay, well that's where the word lily comes from in the title. A little lily princess. So I guess she's going to be having a lot of tea parties. Emily has her own service as well, sized to her hand because she is too small to hold one of my cups. I want to see. Come inside then, and I will introduce you to Emily. And that was Sarah's first week of classes at Miss Minchin's Select Seminary for Young Ladies. Next event with Lottie, I need 5 belief. I don't even remember what's what in terms of like the icons. 3 Grace week 2 for Lavinia. And I guess with Jessie, I could just play the event. Well, Jessie is the one that I want to bag. I'm very interested in this red-haired chick. Not so interested in the lolly, unfortunately, because she's literally like 2 years old. Only weird if you let it be. That's also facts. On Sunday morning, the students gathered in the entrance hall of Miss Minchin's Select Seminary. I heard Japan Elementary School and Junior High School combined. Yeah, that's not so uncommon, I think. I know that when I was in elementary school and middle school, it was all in the same building. It was all the same school. And also one of the schools that I worked in as a teacher was elementary, like kindergarten to 8th grade and middle school combined. So I think that's actually a very common thing to have elementary and junior high combined. But what makes this game less common, what makes it a little bit more unusual, a little bit more rare, is the fact that all of those different grade levels are combined in one classroom. So being all in one building would make sense, but all in one classroom is what makes it a lot more special, I guess. Girls, are you ready? Form up into a line behind Lavinia. Sarah, dear, it is our custom to walk to and from church every Sunday, when the weather permits. That allows the horses a day of rest, and ensures that students receive regular exercise. Enjoy your shower, Click. I hope it's refreshing. It is important to look your best when we are walking out among the public. Oh, I've skipped something, my bad. Hold on, can I go back? No, I don't know. Can I? Yeah. We want our school to always leave a good impression. You should follow Lavinia's cues. She will show you what to do. Lavinia is always a model student. As if hearing her name, Lavinia smiled and tilted her head. You could learn a great deal from Lavinia, dear. And as her father is also posted to India, the two of you should have much in common. I'm sure you'll make close friends. Now, go and stand in line behind her. Sarah made her way to the front of the line, where Jessie and Lavinia stood close together. What are you doing? Go to the back. Miss Minchin told me to stand behind you. She said you were a model. Oh, very well then. But that's my place. You wouldn't want to disobey Miss Minchin, would you? No. We have to show our new girl how to behave herself in church. She may never have seen one before. Sarah thought it wisest to remain silent. You're confused right now. You may ask a question for clarification if you'd like. Okay, so they're showing me what I already did. But it seems like I could redo those things. Or maybe this is a way to, like, if you want to do the same thing again, they give you a shortcut, like, oh, you don't have to highlight it again. We had your previous choices highlighted already. It'd be nice if I could see the icon for what belief looked like. But I can't. So, or maybe there's a way. I don't know. Alright, well I know the book is knowledge, and I know that the walking thing is, I guess, exercise. I don't know what the other ones are. I think the heart is like sympathy. Maybe that cross is like belief. That would make sense, right? So what do I want to do? I'll read a book again. I think instead of practicing dance, maybe I will. You know what? Maybe the angel is belief as well. This is just kind of tricky, honestly. I think I'm gonna switch writing diary to Thursday, and I'll do the tea party on Friday. Because I think we got one friend now, so why not? Dancing. Yeah, see, I didn't get anything Tuesday or Wednesday, it doesn't look like. But I got something Monday, Thursday, Friday. So it's confusing. Whatever I'm doing on Tuesday and Wednesday seems to just not be useful at the moment. A knock came at the door. Sarah? Sarah, dear. Yes, is there? Oh, hello. Bonjour, mademoiselle. Miss Minchin hissed through her teeth, and the young woman in the maid's uniform fell silent. Sarah, before he left, your father arranged for a maid to be employed, especially for your needs. Yo, she's got the freaking premium condo, penthouse, and the maid. Like, how come she's got, like, so much more luxury than everyone else, probably? And she's got some sort of, like, wall scroll poster in the background. And it's not even hentai. She living the wholesome life. Bro. I believe she is from France. Yes. Her name is Mariette, and she'll be living in your rooms, helping you with your clothing in the morning and anything else you require. Yo, this French maid looks like the mom of that model student girl, Lavinia. Please use her as your liaison with the staff. If you have need of food, send your maid rather than speaking to cook directly. And don't let her fool you. She does speak the queen's tongue. She swept out of the room, leaving the maid and her new little mistress blinking at each other in confusion. You know what? When people ask what languages I speak, I'm gonna be like, bro, I speak the queen's tongue. I speak the queen's tongue, a little bit of Spanish, and a little bit of Italian. Bonjour, Mariette. Je m'appelle Sarah. Comment allez-vous? What? She got the French down pat? Très bien, merci. And I'm pleased to see that you are just as your papa described you. Oh, what did he say? Oh god, look at her. Fiending for father's words. That no other little girl is as solemn as you, and that you would make me smile. Solemn is quite the interesting descriptor. Not a word I think about often. But what would being solemn make someone... Why would being solemn make someone smile? Ah, it is your... Je ne sais quoi. It is you. Now, why don't you show me around your rooms? Okay, seems like I could become best friends with the maid. Alright, bet. I'm a little bit confused as to how I pick an event. I guess it's that whiteness, right? Like the two dark circles mean I haven't picked it. I'm not picking it. And the lighter circle would mean I'm about to pick it. So I don't think I maybe didn't pick Jussie last time. Maybe I messed up. Let me try again. Here you go. Okay. I figured it out this time. I'm too stupid to figure out game. Hello, Sarah. May I come in to visit? Sarah rose to her feet at once. You're very welcome. Please come inside. Jussie stepped into the room, then held out her skirt to drop a delicate curtsy in greeting. I know we have been introduced, but I wish to make your acquaintance more personally. Oh, hell yeah. You want some of my tea, baby? And without Lavi listening in. Yeah, cheating on your girlfriend. I respect it. Lavinia, I thought that you and she were the best of friends. Of course we are. I adore her. She's so classic. So elegant and focused. I admire her very much. However, sometimes it is nicer to do things for oneself. Are those real silk stockings you're wearing? Sarah blinked, caught unawares by this change of topic. Yes, I have several pairs. My papa took me to many shops while he was in London. They're darling. Mine are only Lisley cotton. May I see the pattern? Sarah sat down in her comfortable armchair, lifting the hem of her skirt slightly. Whoa, bro! Whoa! First night already lifting up the skirt? Going for it? This girl is, quite the firecracker. So that the floral embroidery over her ankle was visible. What little feet you have! I never saw such little feet. Are they small? You know, I was thinking in the title art that it looked like there was like a whole foot fetish going on. Because it looked like one girl was sticking her foot in another girl's face almost. And now it's finally unfolding. Can we make zero sympathy? I just imagine our MC become Ayano Koji. Oh god, no. Not like this. Not the most melancholy rom-com protagonist. She raised her leg a bit. Oh god, not Lord Trophies, please. Somebody redeem us. Pointing her toes and moving her foot this way and that. They seem the same size as they have always been, even though I know they must have been smaller when I was younger. I'm sure that Lottie's feet are smaller than mine. And Emily's, of course, are the smallest of all. Emily? Emily's the doll that my papa bought to be my companion. Sarah stood up and lifted Emily into her arms for Jessie to admire. Emily, this is Jessie Abbott, my new friend. The older girl dropped a beautiful curtsy and laughed. Oh, she has silk stockings too. Stockings for such teeny tiny feet. How cute. But you do have small feet for your height, Sarah. I'm sure you do. Look at mine. Jessie pressed her foot up alongside Sarah's for comparison. I just don't know whether larger or smaller feet are better. For dancing, I mean. If you dance with a partner, small feet would be better to avoid being stepped on, and they look very stylish in slippers. Slippers are cuter if they are smaller. But larger feet might be better for holding positions and standing on your toes. Small feet may not be as strong. Your feet have a very good shape, though. They arch well. They're very pretty. Can feet be pretty? Colonel Grange's little daughter, Isabel, in India, was the prettiest girl I ever knew. All the gentlemen said she was the beauty of the regiment. She has dimples and round, rose-colored cheeks, pale blue eyes, and long curling hair, the color of gold. And everyone said those things were very pretty. No one ever spoke of her feet. I'm a little fan. This is the treatment I receive. Dang straight. I suppose, if feet can be pretty, then perhaps I do have pretty feet. I know the rest of me is not. My hair is too black. Wait, well that's like, isn't that the ideal in Japan? And straight and short. Isn't that the ideal in Japan? I am too thin and my eyes are a strange color. You do not have the same kind of beauty the dolls are made of, but that doesn't mean that you aren't pretty. I think you are quite interesting to look at. Sarah did not wish to contradict her new friend, who had no reason to lie, but her inner conviction that she was an ugly little girl could not be so easily dispelled. Not gonna lie, I think Sarah might be the cutest of the cast. I don't know why she has no confidence. Will you show me the rest of your dolls and clothes? Do all of your petticoats have so many lace frills? Do you think any of them would fit me? I don't know. I suppose we can find out. New week. God, that was quick. Can't feet be pretty? LOL. MC, that's innocence. For real. It's a good question, though. Unless you have a foot fetish, it's probably not something that you think. I've certainly never thought that feet are pretty. I mean, you see, like, a girl's legs, right, in, like, white stockings, and you're like, that's hot. But you're, like, looking at her legs and focusing on what she's wearing. But you're never really looking at their feet. The only time you look at somebody's feet is if they have, like, really expensive kicks. And you're like, dang, bro, you're swagging. But even then, I don't tend to look at people's kicks. Because I could care less whether or not they got money. And I'm not worth looking at because I always wear sneakers that are all black. But anyway, it was the beginning of another week of classes. And the students were seated neatly in rows in the schoolroom. Miss Minchin walked up and down between the desks, ensuring that each pupil's head was bowed to her particular lessons. She paused beside Sarah, a book in her hand. Now, Sarah, as your papa has engaged a French maid for you, I conclude that he wishes you to make a special study of the French language. Ah, I think he engaged her because he thought I would like her, Miss Minchin. I'm afraid that you may have been something of a spoiled little girl, and as such, you always imagine that things are done because you like them. It is a fault in you, and one that we must endeavor to train away. My impression, Sarah, is that your papa wished for you to learn French. I have never really learned to speak French, but that is quite enough. You have never learned, and so you must begin at once. The French master, Monsieur Defarge, will be here in a few minutes. Take this book and look at it until he arrives. Dutifully, Sarah stared at the illustrated pages in front of her. Le Pierre the father, La Mère the mother. You look rather cross, Sarah. I'm sorry you do not like the idea of learning French. I am very fond of it, but... You must not say but when you are told to do things. Miss Abbott, young ladies should not make dreadful snickering noises like a horse. Yes, Miss Minchin. Sarah, look at your book again. Yes, Miss Minchin. You know what? It might be effed up of me to say this, but I gotta say it. I think that it would be nice if they had schools like this for, like, girls in real life. That actually teaches them to be proper ladies, because, like, a lot of these girls I meet, bro, they're far off the mark. Shortly after, Monsieur Defarge arrived in the classroom. The French master was an elderly gentleman, with a neatly trimmed mustache and beard, and hair that flew outwards in dramatic points. His eyes lit up when he caught sight of an unfamiliar little girl puzzling over a book of French phrases. I'm a little bit concerned that his eyes lit up when he saw an unfamiliar little girl, but let's move on. Ah, is this a new pupil? For me, madame? Her papa, Captain Crew, is very anxious that she should begin the language, but I am afraid she has a childish prejudice against it. She does not seem to wish to learn. I'm very sorry to hear that, mademoiselle. Perhaps, when we begin to study together, I may show you that it is a charming tongue. Oh god, he's gonna show her his charming tongue? That's a little bit creepy. Little Sarah rose in her seat. She was beginning to feel rather desperate. Oh god. S'il vous plaît, monsieur, je n'ai pas le faire comprendre. Why are you making me read all this French? She began to explain quite simply in pretty and fluent French. Madame had not understood. She had not learned French, exactly, not out of books. But her papa and other people had always spoken it to her, and she had read it and written it, as she had read and written English. Her papa loved it, and she loved it because he did. Her dear mama, who had died when she was born, had been French. Oh, okay. What on earth? What is she saying? Is this some form of joke? Ah, madame, there is not much I can teach her. She has not learned French. She is French. Her accent is exquisite. You ought to have told me. I tried. I suppose I did not begin right. Miss Minchin slammed her hand upon her desk. Silence, young ladies! Silence at once! And though the other students soon settled back into proper schoolroom behavior, Miss Minchin's lips remained tightly pressed together whenever she looked at Sarah. Hey, bro, that's on you. You didn't want to listen. Alright, so we have noticed that going for a walk and practicing dance has not been helping me. So we will play with toys on Tuesday, and we will write in our diary a bit extra, perhaps. Alright, let's see what happens this time. Reading. Playing. Writing. Writing. Visiting. Okay, so belief is the cross. So what's the angel symbol? If the French language fell naturally from Sarah's lips, there were other lips from which it seemed it could not escape at all, no matter how long the owner stared at her workbook. Le père, the father, le nom, la mère, the mother. To Ermengarde, it had seemed almost unbelievable that a girl of her own age could string together so many words of French as if they were mere trifles. Dismayed at her own failings, she was devoting more effort than usual to the trial of understanding her lessons. Her elbows rested on the desk, her hands under her chin, as she repeated the broken syllables under her breath. She stared so hard and bit the ribbon on her pigtail so fast that she attracted the attention of Miss Minchin, who, feeling extremely cross at the moment, immediately pounced upon her. What beliefs that is? Belief is the one with the cross symbol over it. It looks like holy water with a cross. And we need that one so we could go on a date with I forgot who, but somebody. I barely see you in stream, Lord. Welcome back, Click. If I disappear because my internet is gone, don't do it, Click. Don't disappear. Miss St. John, what is the meaning of such conduct? Remove your elbows. Take your ribbon out of your mouth. Sit up at once. Yes, Miss Minchin. Matters did not improve for Miss St. John when the French master himself arrived. Good bread, le bon pain? Kindly though he was, Monsieur Defarge could not help but smile at her pronunciation. That is not quite correct. In Cortes bien, le bon pain. Le bon bang? Girls, conduct yourselves. It isn't funny, really. They ought not to laugh. Poor thing. It was a way of hers always to want to spring into any fray in which someone was made uncomfortable or unhappy. Aw, man, so the redhead girl is a bully even though I'm trying to bag her, and this little farm girl is like mad chill. Bro, I'm gonna have to bag the farm girl just to teach her French. However, there was no way for any hero to defend or rescue Ermengarde from the horrors of education, at least not until the lesson period had concluded. Alright, it looks like I have my choice of dates. I could date the bully girl again, or I could date Ermengarde. It's sad because the bully girl is extremely cute, and she's got that beautiful long red hair. But let's face it, man, I don't know. She acting kinda effed up, bro. Having made up her mind to befriend unfortunate Ermengarde, Sarah first had to seek her out. Someone like Lavinia could be easily tracked from a distance by the sharp sound of her voice, or the drumming heels of little girls stampeding away from her presence. Ermengarde, however, kept largely to herself and did not make a great deal of noise. Sarah found her at last, bundled rather disconsolately in a window seat. Forthright and fearless, Sarah walked over to offer a friendly greeting. Hello, what is your name? Her name, of course, is already known, as they had been introduced, however briefly, upon Sarah's arrival at the school. This was, however, the traditional thing that little girls always said to each other, by way of beginning an acquaintance. The etiquette of children has its own observances. Why do they keep having to emphasize that they're little girls? Why can't they just say girls? Ah, my name's Ermengarde St. John. Mine is Sarah Crew. Yours is very pretty. It sounds like a storybook. Do you like it? To understand why she fluttered so nervously, one must recall that a new pupil at school is, for a short time, a very uncertain thing. Cliques and friendships in a small environment can become very firmly set indeed, and leave no room for the excluded, no matter how many years might pass. To the friendless, then, a new student brings with her a breath of hope. Here is someone who is not yet claimed. Perhaps she will like me. And yet, as she is unknown, friendship may not be a possibility. A new girl could equally be snobbish or foolish or mean-spirited. The hope is always adulterated with fear. This pupil is even more noteworthy than most, for rumors about her had filled the school even before her arrival. She had her own carriage and her own maid. Her rooms were like no one else's. Her wardrobe was exquisite. She had the adventure of a voyage from India to discuss. It is no wonder that Ermengarde was somewhat tongue-tied upon being addressed. I like yours. Your name. She bit her lip in chagrin at her own stumbling. The only problem with Ermengarde, like, she is very cute. The only problem is that I feel like her outfit could be quite a bit better. Sarah held out her hand, not as a grand lady might for a gentleman to touch it, but as if greeting someone who was already a friend. After only a moment's hesitation, Ermengarde took it. I'm very pleased to meet you. Me too. Oh, you should meet Emily as well. Who is Emily? Come up to my room, and you shall see. Alright. They jumped down from the window seat together and went upstairs. Is it true that you have a whole playroom all to yourself? The ordinary pupils at Miss Minchin's select seminary had only small bedrooms of their own, enough space to sleep and dress, and read if they were inclined, but for most activities they must venture out. Yes. Papa asked Miss Minchin to let me have one. She opened the door and beckoned Ermengarde inside. See, there is the sitting room. Through that door. Oh, it's beautiful. Sometimes when I'm playing, I make up stories about the things I am doing and tell them to myself. And I don't like people to hear me. It spoils it if I think people might listen. Does that sound too selfish of me? I do tell stories for others as well. It is only as some stories, particular new ones that I am only just making up, are private. They are too delicate to be shared. This sounds incredibly wholesome and incredibly cute. But she's a bully. Bullies deserve to stub their toe, but she's a cute bully. Can we date the bully? Maybe be like increased strength stat or something and beat her to submission? Well, technically, the redhead girl, if that's the one you're talking about, she's not the main bully. She's just like playing along with what Lavinia does. And Lavinia is the real bully. Now, I don't know if you're saying Lavinia is the one you like or if Jessie is the one you like. I'm not a Lavinia fan at all. I'm like, gross, bro. Not that attitude. But Jessie, there might be hope for. Ermengarde had paused, her eyes wide. You make them up? How? How can you do that? Why, anyone can make up things. Have you never tried? But where do the stories come from? Inside my head. Don't you ever imagine things that might happen that haven't? You must have dreams when you sleep at least. Ermengarde shook her head, her braids wobbling. I try not to think about things like that. They are too confusing. I try to think only about what I am supposed to be learning at school. I try very hard, but it doesn't seem to help. Sarah found the concept of a girl with no imagination at all too difficult to grasp. Surely you must read storybooks about things that aren't real. Oh no, I hate to read. Seeing that this response disappointed Sarah, she fished for a better explanation. I don't read well. I can't concentrate. The words run together, and it's so hard to remember anything that I read in a book. I am meant to read a great many books for Miss Minchin's classes, but I get them all mixed up. When we read poems after history, I thought that Christabel was the daughter of the King of Spain. I don't want to read anything more than I absolutely must. I'll only make a muddle of it. If I tried to make up a story, then how would I remember what was real and what wasn't? But it's good that you can. What if you read stories about fairies or dragons? Surely you wouldn't get those confused with things at school. But I might. You are very like a fairy. And you are here at school. I'm sorry, I'm very dull and slow. Everyone says so. I understand if you do not wish to spend any more time with me. Sarah patted Ermengarde on the shoulder in a companionable fashion. You like the red hair one? That's excellent choice. Excellent choice. She got dyslexia? Yeah, I was thinking dyslexia. I was also thinking a little bit of ADD, because the way she said the words were running together, and she can't concentrate, almost makes me feel like she's like reading too fast or something. I don't know. Like she's reading too fast, she can't keep up, everything kind of looks the same. Everyone is different. I'm only sorry that it means I cannot share my favorite books with you. I have so many favorites that I love, and I wish that you could love them too. Oh, I have an idea. Perhaps if I read them to you, then you would not get them confused with other books. I don't know. Hesitantly, she smiled. But I could try? Good. Did you see that darling little blue and yellow bird on the way back from church? It was only a blue tit. They're hopelessly common. The only blue tits that I've seen are Mystique from X-Men. I don't know how common blue titties are. I hadn't seen one before. They're country birds. They like trees. You don't see them so much in London. There must be many more birds in the country. Are there any birds in England that are blue all over? I don't think so. Are there bluebirds in India? Well, there are some birds with bright blue feathers, but not all over. And some birds are blue all over, but only a bit blue. I thought that perhaps in England I might find the bluebird of happiness. What is that? I shall tell you. All of you. Come up to my room, and we shall have tea delivered. You shouldn't give orders to cook. It's not proper for a young lady to go into the kitchens. Oh, I won't go. My maid, Mariette, will fetch the tea for us. You have your own personal maid to bring you tea? Yes, my father arranged for her to come from France. Come and say hello. Sarah and her entourage were greeted at the door. Oh my, so many visitors. If it's alright, Would you please bring tea for my guests, Mariette? Oui, mademoiselle. Mariette went out once to the kitchens to carry out her little mistress's orders. The head cook of Miss Minchin's Select Seminary looked up at Mariette's approach, her face as pinched as her dough. Here, now, what's this then? Afternoon tea for 4. Oh, is that all? I expect she'll be wanting fresh cakes, too. Never mind that, we haven't any made. Ah, none, there are biscuits already. Never seen that stop one of those girls from wanting more. Quick as you please. It is perhaps so, with some, but not with my mistress. Elle a l'air d'une princesse toute petite. She thanks me for my work just as if she were thanking a grand lady. Giving herself airs, you mean. As you wish it. Still, I'm very pleased with my place. Now, the tea? Alright. I think we're going to stick with these same activities because they seem to work pretty well last time. Okay, so I see each activity gives you 3 possibilities of what you can gain. What I don't understand is, why is it that sometimes you just gain nothing? Right this way, dear Sarah. Lady Pitkin will be absolutely charmed to meet you. Yes, Miss Minchin. Where is she taking Sarah? Miss Minchin is showing her off to another visiting parent, or maybe a donor. I'm sure I wouldn't know. Dear Sarah must come into the drawing room and talk to Mrs. Musgrave about India. Dear Sarah must speak French to Lady Pitkin. Her accent is so perfect. She didn't learn her French at this seminary, that's for certain. And there's nothing so clever in her knowing it. She says herself she didn't learn it at all. She just picked it up because she always heard her papa speak it. It's simply disgusting, the way Miss Minchin trots her out like an ornament. I can't imagine being so good at anything that Miss Minchin should want to show me off, especially French. Sarah is always imagining. She will no doubt grow up to be eccentric. There's one thing about her though, she's never grand about herself the least bit, even though she easily might be. I believe I couldn't help being proud, just a little, if I had so many fine things and was made such a fuss over. A little. If Miss Minchin brought you in to curtsy for a mayor's wife, you would purr, just like Tybalt. Oh, Lavy, don't be silly. Being a cat might be even nicer than being able to speak French. And every bit as likely for you. There's no use in waiting here for Sarah. She'll be at tea for hours, I'm sure. We may as well go on our way. 0 sympathy, 6 knowledge. I don't know Kauji Road. 10 knowledge now. Oh god, you're absolutely right. Such is life. Such is life. I don't know why we don't have any sympathy. I thought the tea parties were supposed to give us sympathy. Okay, it seems like I can't hang out with anyone except for Mariette. If I want to hang out with Ermengarde, again, I need more belief. The power of belief. So I might have to do a lot of writing in diary. And I'm gonna need to find a way to get sympathy. Oh, the misery. Mariette, is it alright if I ask you a few questions about yourself? Bien sûr, mademoiselle. What do you wish to know? What is your family name? Miss Minchin did not say. Dumas, mademoiselle. Oh, are you a relative of the great French writer, the author of the Three Musketeers? Mariette chuckled kindly. No, mademoiselle. Ah, well, not in a close way, I'm not. There are many with the name of Dumas, and I cannot know what connections there are between all people. Do you know all of your cousins and your cousins' cousins, and all who bear the name of Crew? I don't know anyone else named Crew except for myself and my papa. So you see, I cannot say who my relatives might be at some distance. Sarah nodded. Where in France do you come from? I grew up in Limoges. You may have heard of the Limoges box, the porcelain? Sarah shook her head. Ah, well. They were famous once. Perhaps they will be again. For now, like much of Limoges, they have faded. What is it like there? Ah, what is it like anywhere? It is a city. Not so large as Paris or London, no. Is it near Paris? I like how she said that. What is it like anywhere? It's a good question. What is it like anywhere? Jeez. What's going on, Cassie? How you doing today? None. Pas tres proche. It is in the south. You must rely on the railways to travel between them. All trains lead to Paris. Sarah tried to picture it. She did not know Limoges, but if it was in the south, then it must be warm and green, surely. She had seen paintings of France, stone houses, arches, and bridges, rolling green hills, hanging vines, and sunlight, always sunlight, not the fogs of London. It must be lovely. As you say, mademoiselle. How did you come to take this position? What I mean to say is, my papa and I did not have time to visit France, and I did not meet you until you came here. Did you meet my papa somewhere else? None. We have never met in flesh and blood. Your papa, he is a gentleman, and knows many other gentlemen in fine cities like Paris. When it happened that he wished to appoint a maid, he wrote to this Paris gentleman to describe you. And I have a cousin who works for this Paris gentleman, and he thought of me, and so the arrangements were made. And I'm glad that they were. Sarah smiled. The gentle warmth of Mariette's regard was very comforting for a little girl, one who had been separated from her family and made to live in a far-off place. It was true that Mariette was, for the most part, only another stranger, like any other in Miss Minchin's seminary. They were only just beginning to know each other. And yet, Mariette was not simply a stranger who might come and go, like the students. She was Sarah's maid, the beginnings of her very own household. She might in time be the closest thing to family. I wonder about the friend my papa has in Paris. I wonder if he ever knew my mother. How was your week, Cassie? Stay together now, girls. Keep in line and don't step in any puddles. Just because church is over is no excuse to soil your nice dresses. The air smells very different when it has rained. It still smells like London. There are too many people and chimneys and horses. I keep lavender sachets in my room so that I can smell the gardens even when I'm away from home. They're not much. My aunt Eliza sent me the flowers. I stitched them myself. We have lavender in India too. Oh, but isn't lavender an English flower? I thought everything in India would be. Saffron and spices. Perhaps the British soldiers brought lavender with them so that they could smell the gardens too. Do you think the soldiers could be homesick? Of course, soldiers must be very brave and bear all sorts of dangers and hardships, but that doesn't mean that they don't have feelings. And we must be brave too, even when we are far from the homes and the people that we love. The carriage passed alongside Miss Minchin's students as they walked, seemingly packed to the walls with children, 8 of them, siblings and all, and such a giggling mass of blonde curls and rosy cheeks as Sarah had never seen before. Their merriment was infectious, and Sarah found that a smile had come unexpectedly to her face. As such, it came as a slight shock when the carriage moved along and revealed a sight previously hidden on the other side of the street. A little beggar child in a heap of rags, too dirty for Sarah to tell if it was a boy or a girl. Is this going to be our 6th friend? Pricked by the sight, Sarah stepped out of line and carried her little coin purse to the child. Sarah, wait, where are you going? Here's a 6pence. Go and buy yourself something warm. She hurried back into formation, but not before her steps were noticed by Miss Minchin. Sarah Crew, you must stay in line. If you go rushing off, you'll put yourself at risk. I should not like to tell your father that you were struck down by a cab horse in the road. I only wished to. Generosity is a virtue, but it is not wise or safe to come in close contact with creatures of the streets. You must be careful to clean yourself thoroughly when we return to the school. Yes, Miss Minchin. Sarah looked back, but the beggar child had already disappeared from sight. How strange that one child should be hungry and dirty on the streets, while another rides in a fine carriage and knows nothing but joy and laughter. And all of these things happen quite by accident, because of the way that we are born. Good, just been learning how to do pixel art. Oh, that's pretty cool. I think there's a free pixel art site. Is that what you're using, or are you using a pixel art app? Have you seen my pixel art, Cassie? If not, I could share it with you. I made like a pixel art hamster a long time ago that was very cute. My neck is hurting like hell. You gotta do some neck stretches. And maybe put some icy hot cream on your neck if you have anything like that. Alright guys, I need sympathies. I'm pretty sure sympathy is the heart. They don't really like giving me those. Is sympathy not the heart? It is. It is indeed. I'm gonna do... What should I do? That's a good question. Playing with toys hasn't been working out with me to any great extent. I'm gonna write in my diary for 3 days. And I'm gonna not read a book. I'm gonna have 2 tea parties. I got some sympathies. Yeah, baby. Okay, got some clocks. Got some more clocks. Got some more clocks. Got some sympathy. I think those are those not sympathies? Yeah, those are sympathies. And the clocks are patience. Okay. Even from a distance, there was no mistaking Lottie's shrill little voice. I'm using a pixel art website. Nice. What have you drawn so far? When are you going to share? I want to hold the kitty. Don't be ridiculous. Sarah came into the room to find Lavinia perched primly in a window seat, looking down at the smaller child whose lips was beginning to wobble. Tybalt is in my lap, and he is perfectly content there. Listen, you can hear him purr. That is because I am stroking him and he likes me. I want to hold the kitty. Keep your sticky little fingers away from his fur. Lottie's brow furrowed in fierce determination. Ignoring Lavinia's commands, she reached out to pick up the cat. Lavinia slapped Lottie's hand away. The sudden movement jostled Tybalt out of his comfortable doze. With a parting squeeze of his claws, he leapt from Lavinia's legs and hurried out of the room. Now look what you've done, you little brat. He scratched me, and if he's damaged my dress... It scratched you because you're mean. You wouldn't even let me touch it. It isn't fair, it isn't. A cat is not a rag doll. You cannot snatch and tug at it as you please, or it will bite your hand. Is that too difficult for a child of 8 to understand? She cannot help being younger any more than we can help being older. If she is 8, she is 8. But she will be 9 the next year, and 10 the year after that, and in 12 years she'll be 20, and that is quite grand. Dear me, how we can calculate. I don't want to be 20. You will be when you are, and you won't be while you aren't. So there's no reason to want or not to want. No, no, no. Be quiet, or I shall slap your face. Why is this girl such a bitch? What do you do to increase sympathy? You have to have tea parties. Lots of them. Just my OC as of right now? Oh, okay. That should be pretty cool to see. Also, why did somebody ping me in waifus on husbandos? Oh, Azure said she begged her parents that she didn't want a quinceañera. That's weird. You mustn't. Lottie looked into Lavinia's blazing eyes, then ran from the room, wailing at the unfairness of it all. You ought not to baby her, Sarah. She must learn that she can't have everything her own way. Privately, Sarah thought that Lottie was not the only student at the school who might need to learn that lesson. Alright, so I can't hang out with Ermengarde, so we're gonna flirt with Devarain's favorite instead, Jessie. That afternoon, Jessie came to Sarah's rooms for tea. The tea itself, though, seemed to hold little interest for her. I was hoping you could tell me more about your life in India. It all sounds very interesting and different to me. I'm only learning the ways that it was different by being here. My papa and I lived in a bungalow that was as large as this school, but wide rather than tall. There was a veranda where we could sit in the breeze and watch the sunset. The summers are so hot that many children of British parents become ill. So we are taken away to the hill stations, which are towns in the mountains near lakes, where it is cooler. I had many toys and pets and servants that would salam to me and call me Miss Sahib. I suppose that is because we are rich, but it is all the life that I knew. Did you ride elephants and camelopards and tigers? I've never seen a camelopard. There are elephants in India, of course, but they are mostly used to carry heavy equipment, or for rajas to ride in parade. I've seen them, but I have never ridden one. And tigers are too dangerous to see up close. Anyone who tried to ride one would be clawed and eaten. They attack villages sometimes and carry off the native children, you know. It's terrible. One even attacked the outpost my papa was stationed at, and he had to shoot it to defend the citizens. How exciting. Jesus, Nightbot. 3 announcements at once. And all very important announcements, I must say. He is very brave. I miss him so. I hope he does not do anything too brave while I'm not there to look after him. Was it very frightening traveling so far? No, there were many other people on the ship with us. It was strange and not so comfortable as this room, but it did not feel dangerous. It would have been much harder if my papa were not with me. When young boys are sent back to England, they are sometimes made to travel with the regiments, and no family at all. A pleasant companion makes a great deal of difference. You should always have one. Jessie pressed her hands together in her lap, the motion giving a shy lift to her shoulders. I would very much like to travel the world when I am older, but I don't know if I will ever have the chance. Do you think you will travel, Sarah? Well, I do want to return to India as soon as I am old enough. And I think I should like to visit France someday. I haven't thought of it beyond that. It is a very big world. I suppose it would be a shame to live one's entire life in only a small part of it. Jessie gently swirled the liquid inside her teacup, her eyes locked on the little ripples and waves. Some people feel that London is the center of the world, and that once you're here, there is nowhere better in all the world for you to go. Why would you want more than perfection? I'm sure London is very nice, but... The cup trembled in Jessie's hands. Oh, I'm sorry, I've spilled a bit of tea. How silly of me. Please, tell me more stories about India. Alright. Would you like to sit in front of the mirror while I brush your hair, mademoiselle? Oh, I don't think so. Not by the mirror. You see, it is nice to sit and think while you run the brush through my hair. Sometimes I remember stories or think of things I want to say to someone else. Other times it helps me relax. It must be like that for Tybalt, when someone is petting him. But if I were looking into the mirror, then the Sarah in the mirror would be looking back at me, and we should have to pay attention to each other, or else we might be thought impolite. Mariette laughed in the back of her throat. That is as you wish. I had thought of doing something different with your hair, and if you could see, then you would know more quickly if you thought yes or no, and I could change it if you did not like it. Well, I think it's better to look at it when it's finished. If you stop reading a book in the middle, you might have the wrong idea of what it's all about. Then I will show you when I am done. Mariette is so kind. I would be terribly lonely in these rooms without her. This school is full of other girls, but they are, like me, guests of Miss Minchin. We live in the same house, but they are not part of my household. Mariette is the only person who belongs to me. It is nice to sit and think while she brushes my hair, and she has a better way with it than my old Aya did. But I do miss my papa so. If he were here, if he were coming to visit me as some girls' parents do, how happy my life would be. I wonder where my papa is now. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to speak. No, it is good, mademoiselle. You should speak your thoughts. Your father sailed many weeks ago. By now, he is in India, yes? Home and safe. And thinking how different the house seems without your footsteps. Oh, I don't want to think of him sad and lonely. It is right that he misses you and that you miss him. That is how things should be. But that does not mean your life is nothing but sadness, does it? No, I do not think I am melancholy. I would not wish to be. I enjoy my books and my friends. So you see, your papa, he will be lonely, but he will also feel other things. He will live his life, but he will also think of you. I believe you will hear from him soon. Oh, I hope you are right. No, you must be right. My papa will write me letters as soon as the ships can carry them, and I will treasure his words. And I do hope, that my papa has a friend to care for him as Mariette cares for me. Okay, it seems like our knowledge has gone down. And our belief has gone down as well. So it seems like your stats, and our sympathy has gone down. So it seems like your stats kind of teeter and totter. I got a lot of belief and a lot of sympathy. That's pretty good. While Sarah was walking through the school, she heard a great commotion coming from a nearby room. The first high-pitched shriek made her startle, concerned that one of the younger girls might have injured herself. Sarah was a quiet and solemn girl herself, but made no judgment against those temperaments led them to cry out loudly when they were in pain. However, the wailing went on, more angry than miserable, and the voice was recognizably Lottie's. Sarah came closer and began to make out the accompaniment of a frustrated adult that had been drowned out by a childish tantrum. "What are you crying for? There's nothing wrong with you." Oh. I haven't got any ma. Stop crying for heaven's sake. Haven't got any ma. Why is she maying like a sheep? You ought to be whipped. You shall be whipped if you do not hush, you naughty child. Lottie wailed more loudly than ever. Miss Minchin emerged from the room, her hands pressed to the sides of her head, and paused when she saw Sarah lingering outside. "Oh, dear Sarah." Miss Minchin's attempt at producing a friendly smile was not at all convincing. Lottie's roars continued unabated, and each burst of sound made Miss Minchin's shoulders twitch. I stopped because I knew it was Lottie, and I thought perhaps, just perhaps, I could make her be quiet. May I try, Miss Minchin? If you can quiet that, you are a clever child. Dreadful thing, we may not be able to keep her. But you're clever in everything, my dear. I dare say you can manage her. Go in. When Sarah entered the room, Lottie was lying upon the floor, screaming and kicking her small fat legs violently. Ooh-ah! Sarah stood by the howling, furious child for a few moments and looked down at her without saying anything. Then she sat down flat on the floor beside her and waited. Except for Lottie's angry screams, the room was quite quiet. This was a new state of affairs for Lottie, who was accustomed to hearing other people protest and implore and command and coax her by turns. To find that the only person near her did not seem to mind in the least how she kicked and screamed was unusual, and it made necessary for her to pause her sobbing in order to see what was going on. She opened her tight-shut, streaming eyes to see who this person was, and found that it was only another little girl, but it was the one who owned Emily and all the nice things. Sarah looked at Lottie quite curiously, but said nothing. Lottie sucked in a gulp of air, but the noise she made sounded rather half-hearted. I haven't any mama." "Neither have I." Lottie blinked rapidly at this unexpected answer. Her legs and arms ceased their kicking and lay flat against the floor. Where is your mama?" "She went to heaven, but I'm sure she comes out sometimes to see me, though I don't see her. So does yours. Perhaps they can both see us now. Perhaps they are both in this room." "Here?" Lottie sat bolt upright and looked around. Seeing nothing, her face began to scrunch up again. "We can't see the people who live in heaven, even when they come to visit us. They travel like wind or sunlight. You can only feel them for a moment, if they touch you, and then they're gone. They can go anywhere in an instant, but most of the time, they stay up above. Their land is full of lilies, fields and fields of lilies, and when the soft wind blows over them, it wafts the scent of them into the air, and everybody always breathes it, because that soft wind is always blowing, wind and sunlight, and the streets are always shining. And little children run about in the lily fields, and gather armfuls of them, and laugh, and make little wreaths to wear on their heads, or spin cloaks and dresses of soft lily petals. The petals never go dry or brown, but when the children grow tired of them, they toss the petals into the air, and they turn into clouds." Lottie had, by now, quite forgotten to cry, and was leaning forward, hanging on every word that Sarah spoke. In that shining city, people are never tired, however far they can walk. They can float anywhere they like. And there are walls made of pearl and gold all around the city, but they are low enough for the people to go and lean on them, and they look down onto the earth and smile. From those walls, sometimes they dance down to visit us, other times they whisper beautiful messages into the wind, and hope that someday we will hear them. Oh, I want to go there. I haven't any mama here. Sarah saw the danger signal and took hold of Lottie's hand with a coaxing little laugh. I'll be your mama in this school. We'll play that you are my little girl, and Emily shall be your sister. Shall she? Yes, let us go and tell her. And then I will wash your face and brush your hair, and both of us shall have a little bit more family. Okay, it looks like I could date Jessie again. For some reason, Jessie is like the only person I could ever date. So let's do it. Sarah, I was wondering, what do you do when you are at tea with Miss Minchin and those people? Does she have you recite a party piece or dance or pose? Are there men present? Not commonly, and only if their wives are in attendance. I do not think so many men would care for tea with a schoolmistress. I've never been asked to dance or recite. Sometimes she asks me about my lessons, and if I like the classes and the other pupils, which I always say that I do. Sometimes they ask me about books that I have read, which I don't mind, and then Miss Minchin says how clever I am, which makes me uncomfortable. Often Miss Minchin wishes me to converse in French with a lady. They're not usually French women themselves, but they see the language as a charming accomplishment. All of a sudden, Jessie's tone sharpened. Do they actually converse with you as a person or only as Miss Minchin's pretty toy? Do they ever call on you instead of Miss Minchin? Do you ever see them again? Sarah blinked rapidly. I don't understand. Does it make you angry being used like a trinket for Miss Minchin to display? There does not seem any reason for me to be angry. Having tea with visitors is not such a difficult thing. It is like a kind of performance, with attention instead of applause. A performance. I never thought that tea and books and French could be like being on the stage. Jessie spun in place, letting her skirt catch the air, then sank in a formal curtsy. It was a beautiful position, with her back perfectly straight and the fabric of her dress spread neatly around her. Oui, oui, merci, madame. Please pour again. Not quite like that. Jessie straightened, patting her skirts down to ensure that every ruffle was in place. Will you speak French to me, Sarah? I hardly know what to say when you ask it like that. Say something pleasant. Say that it is a beautiful day, or that your breakfast was delicious, or that I am clever and charming. Vous êtes un jeune fille charmante, mais je ne vous comprends pas toujours. Jessie smiled, although Sarah was not sure if she had understood the entire phrase. The language sounds much lovelier from your lips than from those of Monsieur Defarge. It always sounds beautiful to me. It reminds me of my mother. Oh, did you... Jessie, where are you? Oh, I have to go. I'll visit you later, alright? And she hurried off to answer her best friend's summons. Girls, get around if you please. You'll be welcoming a special dance instructor today who is visiting us from France. She'll be leading you in exercises to increase your grace and posture. Go and change into your leotard-style dancing costumes. She swept off to her office and the girls clustered eagerly together. A special dance instructor? Do you suppose she might be from the Ballet de l'Opéra de Paris? The Ballet of Opéry? The Paris Opera Ballet, of course. The absolute birthplace of romantic ballet, and they go all the way back to the court of the Sun King. Oh. I'm not so fond of ballet as you are. No one is as fond of ballet as Jessie is. It is a sickness with her. I wonder if there really is a sickness that can make you like one thing or another person more than another, and if there were, would anyone wish to be cured? Such things you imagine. In any event, it might not be ballet. She's a special instructor. After all, perhaps we will be permitted to practice social dances, perhaps even the waltz. My father says the waltz is shocking. Watching you attempt to perform it, no doubt would be. If we are allowed the waltz, I will be dancing with Jessie. Oh. Perhaps we had better go and get our costumes? Ermengarde is very sensible. It took only as little praise as that to make poor Miss St. John look pleased. The dancing lessons did not progress quite as anyone expected. Oh God, what is all of this? I do not see how this can be described as dancing. Literally just stretching and massaging each other. In its preparation for dancing, we are learning to stretch and relax our bodies so that we may move more beautifully. It's French. Sarah, is this the way things are usually done in France? I've never asked Mariette whether she took dancing lessons. I want to walk on my hands. Leave your hands on the floor long enough and Ermengarde will trot on them for you. Ah, Jessie, be careful. You're tickling me. The instructor said it was imperative that we rub deeply to warm our muscles. To speak of muscle upon a lady is very unseemly. Your hands are very strong, Ermengarde. Oh, did I hurt you? No, not a bit. It feels nice. It is a little like having my hair brushed. It makes me feel like a cat being petted. I want to be a cat. I want to dance like a cat.
Cats don't dance. They dance at the court of the king of cats. How do they dance, Sarah? Do they stand on their hind legs? Well, girls, cease chattering and get ready for your lessons. Yes, Miss Minchin. Alright, I think I definitely need... I don't know why my sympathy always goes back down so terribly. They're killing me with that. I'm gonna try to make do with the same activities. There you go. That's what I want. 2 belief, 2 sympathy. Perfect. Perfect. Decent. I'll take it. What's vigor never seems to go down. For some reason, knowledge and sympathy goes down a lot. Are you well, ma petite? Yes, I am only feeling a little tired. The days have been growing warmer, but the air never feels the same way that it did in India. I suppose Ermengarde is right, and it is the smell of London. Maybe bad stories lower sympathy? I'm not sure. I mean, we haven't really done much for vigor, I'll admit. So that's kind of on me. I don't know why sympathy goes down, though, because I feel like we've been earning it. Why did knowledge go down? Because we haven't read books in a while. Even if I cannot distinguish one scent above the others, that would mean London. It must always be there. As I am. Bon courage, mademoiselle. I have something here which will brighten your day. A letter from Papa. Oh, merci, Mariette, merci, beaucoup. She did not open it at once, but pressed the envelope to her chest. My papa has sent this. It has been in his hands. Oh my gosh, she's so lewd for her dad. If a letter can come from his hands into mine, then we are never so far apart. At last, she took out the paper and began to read. My dear little missus, here I am, once again, in Bombay. I have little to tell you of my adventures, for no sooner did I reach my home than I began thinking of you and putting pen to paper. Therefore, I have seen little since I left you, other than ships, and you remember those. Sarah closed her eyes and let herself remember the voyage from India, the big ship, the lascars passing silently to and fro on it, the children playing about on the hot deck. There had been women on board, the wives of some young officers, who had invited Sarah to take tea with them and delighted in making her speak her unusual thoughts. But most importantly, there had been her papa. I felt it important to write to you at once, so that you would not worry about your poor old papa, all alone on the ocean. All is well. I'm returned, and life here is remarkably unchanged in my absence. Now, it is your duty to let me know all that has happened since I left you, all the new friends you have made, the books you have read, and the sights you have seen in London. Do you remember Colonel Grange and his little girl Isobel? In a year, she will be old enough that she must leave for England as well. I'm relying on your advice to tell her what to expect in her schooling. Give my regards to Emily and any companions she may have acquired. Yours always, your loving papa. Sarah held the letter in her hands, already beginning to imagine the many things she might write in response. I love you too, papa. Okay, I need Grace. I have no clue what Grace is. But I need Grace if I want to date Redhead. But for now, I could date Ermengarde, so that's pretty good. I'll take that. Ermengarde sat contentedly on the floor of Sarah's room, listening to her read from one of her storybooks. And then he offered to take her away to his father's court, where he would make her his bride. The maiden adored the prince, whose company had charmed her for so many hours, but she could not bear to leave her sisters without first telling them farewell. She bade the prince to leave and return again the next day to the place in the woods where they had met. Sarah did not read the words exactly as they were written, but put her own little touches upon the story to make it turn out the way that she preferred. It was not quite the same as telling her own stories, but Ermengarde still seemed nervous at the idea of stories that had not come from books at all. It was the first step. Once he had gone, she rushed back to her home to take up her work at the wheel, planning to spin twice as fast to cover for her absence. When she sat down at the wheel, she was dismayed to find that her magic gold thread had lost all its brightness. Her heart beat fast and she wept bitterly, for she remembered her mother's warning and knew not what misfortune might now befall her. She was so afraid that she would be punished for what she had done that she ran away without telling anyone what had happened, not even her beloved sisters. She ran through the woods, looking for her prince, but he was on horseback and long since gone. And while she ran, she did not watch where she was going, and so she tripped over a root and fell into a rushing river, disappearing into the swift current. Thus the misfortune was complete. She drowned? Not quite. Sarah continued her story, how the maiden was transformed into a golden water lily who sang in her sorrow, and how she was at last restored to life by the love of her sisters. Ermengarde sighed in contentment. When I hear stories in your voice, I can almost see them happen. You're much better than books. Oh, is this a little bit of flirtation that I'm hearing? But what happened? But what about the prince? Doesn't he marry her in the end? He rode over the bridge by the river and heard her singing, but he didn't do anything to save her. It was her sisters who loved her enough to look for her when she was lost. I thought princes were always heroes. Anyone can be a hero, in the right circumstances. I don't think I could. Ermengarde looked around Sarah's room, decorated as it was with the best of at least 3 countries: dependable England, refined France, and exotic India. Do you miss being in India, Sarah? Yes, of course. It was my home, and I was happy there. I had my house, and my pets, and my ayah, and the skies were never foggy and grey like they are here in London. I loved living there, but I love it most of all because it is where my papa will be. Ermengarde saw Sarah's face suddenly change. A cloud seemed to pass over it and put out the light in her shining eyes. She drew her breath in so sharply that it made a funny, sad little sound, and she shut her lips and held them tightly closed, as if she was determined either to do or not to do something. Have you a pain? There was a moment of silence in which Ermengarde worried that she might have spoken out of turn, but at last Sarah answered, Yes, but it is not in my body. Her voice was low and somewhat unsteady. Do you love your father more than anything else in all the whole world? Ermengarde's mouth fell open a little. She knew that it would not be correct for a respectable child at a select seminary to say that she did not adore her father. Could not imagine being even so much as fond of him. I scarcely ever see him. In fact, she did her very best to avoid being left alone in his company for more than a few minutes. It was not a proper feeling for a daughter, perhaps, and it was clearly not something that Sarah would understand. Ermengarde was indeed greatly embarrassed. He is always in the library, reading things. Reading dojins. There was a wealth of information in that statement, if Sarah had been inclined to decipher it. But she was too preoccupied with her own feelings. I love mine more than all the world 10 times over. That is what my pain is. He has gone away. She put her head quietly down on her little, huddled-up knees and sat very still for a few minutes. Ermengarde had an idea that if she had been like any other little girl, Sarah might have suddenly burst out sobbing and crying. But she did not. Her short, black locks tumbled about her ears, and she sat still. Then she spoke without lifting her head. I promised him I would bear it, and I will. You have to bear things. Papa is a soldier, and think what soldiers bear. If there was a war, he would have to bear marching and thirstiness, and perhaps deep wounds. And he would never say a word. Not one word. Ermengarde could only gaze at Sarah, but she felt that she was beginning to adore her. She was so wonderful, and different from anyone else. Presently, Sarah lifted her face and shook back her black locks with a queer little smile. If I go on talking and talking, I shall bear it better. You don't forget, but you bear it better. I will talk to you as much as you like, if it helps you. That's very wholesome friendship. Hiss, I think I hear Sarah coming. Quickly, step aside. Don't let her see us. But why? Shh. Lavinia took hold of her friend's shoulders and pushed her back against the wall. Wait a moment. There, she's gone. Why are you avoiding Sarah? Ever since she got that letter, it's been nothing but India this and India that. If I have to hear her say that word again, I'm afraid the hair will fly right off my head. I like her stories. Do you know, her father has faced down a tiger? He shot the one whose skin Sarah has in her room. That's why she likes it so. She lies on it and strokes its head, and talks to it as if it were a cat. That is simply disgusting. If it were a cat, it would be one that he had killed. What next? Will she drown Tybalt and then have him stuffed for a pillow? I don't think it's the same thing at all. Sarah says the tiger was attacking an outpost, and he had to shoot it. Sarah tells stories, you know that. Well, I think her father sounds very interesting. And so does India. It's a filthy, disgusting place, rank with foul humors, and don't you forget it. Come along now. Alright. Lavinia led, and Jesse followed. Okay, so I need grace, and I'm not quite sure what grace is, but I think it's that green stuff. No, wait, isn't the green stuff patience? Huh. I'm so confused. But I think it's the green stuff. That's what I want to bank on. I think if I practice dance, I'll get a lot of grace. I'm going to attempt to practice dance. This is tricky. Because if I don't get what I want, then I'm kind of screwed. I'm going to practice dance once. Green stuff is artistry? Okay, so grace is probably the angels, right? Which is also practice dance. I could either practice dance, or I could have a tea party, or go for a walk. But practice dance seems to be the best thing for grace and artistry. Clock is patience. You see, you're a lot better at remembering this than me. I'm like, bro, I'm lost. Too many symbols. Okay, so far we got some belief, which we need. Got more belief and sympathy, which we need. Okay, good, good. Okay, got 2 grace, good. Lot of sympathy. Lot of sympathy. Not nearly enough grace, so we might need to do a little bit more dancing next time. Ermengarde, what do you have there? A new book? The plump girl sighed, showing none of the delight Sarah would have found in such a possession. My father sent it to me. To be enriching. I don't see how books have made me any richer so far. May I see it? She took the volume from Ermengarde's hands and examined the gold lettering on the cover. Poems Antiques by Le Comte de Lille. I don't think I pronounced that right. A book of French poetry. Sarah's excitement only deepened the other girl's dismay. Would you like me to read it with you? I'm certain that if... What's this? Oh, Sarah, you have a new book? French poetry, very improving. As long as it isn't one of those shocking new decadent poets, a proper lady should not read such works. I'm sure it's nothing of the sort. What would you know about it? I was speaking to Sarah. Actually, the book belongs to Ermengarde. What? Don't be silly. She can't even read it. Ermengarde grabbed the book. It's mine. She turned and walked away. You ought not to tease her so. I didn't say anything that isn't true. What good is a book of French poetry to someone like her? Such a waste. She'll probably never even open it. She should have simply given it to you. Admit it. You know that I am right. You may be right, but it was a gift from her father. I'm sure she will treasure it. Not every girl is as devoted to her father as you seem to be, Sarah Crew. Bro, but this is why Sarah's best girl, though. This time it was Sarah who was curled up near a window when Ermengarde found her. Sarah, I wanted to ask you something, if you're not busy. Sarah raised her head and smiled. You know what's interesting about, like, these, sort of harem games and anime? You're almost never, like, interested in the main character, right? You're always interested in, like, one of the people that they're pursuing. But in this game, I feel like Sarah, the main character, is actually the best character and the most interesting. It's interesting how they made such a strong, decent protagonist. Because usually, like, especially in, like, these types of games, I guess, the protagonist is pretty lackluster on purpose because they want you to put yourself in the protagonist's shoes. So I like this game. I quite like it a lot. Only Ermengarde would realize that I may be busy when I am sitting and thinking. You can always ask me things. She paused, then added, I can't always answer, though I might not know. Well, is it true that Miss Minchin has you to tea with visitors just so that you can speak French for them? Oh, well, I don't know if that is the only reason. I often do not say very much, and she still keeps me there for the rest of it. Some of her visitors are not very interested in French at all. Some of them prefer poetry, or want to tell me how they themselves saw India once upon a time. But sometimes, yes, Miss Minchin has guests who speak French and wishes me to converse with them. You really can speak it then, not just a few words or a sentence you memorize. Ermengarde's respectful tone made Sarah feel a bit off balance. She tucked up her feet, sat with her hands clasped around her knees. I can speak it because I've heard it all my life. You can speak it too, if you had always heard it. Oh no, I couldn't. I could never speak it. Why not? Ermengarde shook her head so that the pigtails wobbled. You have heard me before. I'm always like that. I just can't say the words. They're so queer. I dare say that little French girls think the same things about English, if they try to learn the language for the first time. But if you had heard it as a child... But I did. My father, he speaks 7 languages, or maybe 8, I forget. I forget everything. I always have. My father never forgets. He has libraries with thousands of volumes in them, and he knows every one of them by heart. Although our MC is a decent normal girl, but she seems to get life lessons from the soldier dude. Yeah, she learned a lot from her dad, and the fact that she loves her dad so much, pretty bussin', man. He says that when I was very young, he used to speak to me in different languages every day because he hoped that I would learn them all, but it only made me cry. My nurse made him stop because she was afraid that he would confuse me so much I would give up on talking altogether. I heard it from her that he says I am a severe trial because he is so very clever and I am notably and unmistakably dull. I'm the monumental dunce of the school. Dang, even her father is talking smack about her. I can't speak French. I can't recite poems without fumbling the words. My handwriting is too big and lumpy. I can't calculate quickly. I can't keep my kings straight. I'm not good at anything. But you are. You are clever, aren't you, Sarah? The question was asked with a touch of awe in her voice. It made Sarah feel slightly odd to be the subject of such open admiration. Sarah looked out of the window into the dingy square where the sparrows were hopping and twittering on the wet iron railings and the sooty branches of the trees and reflected a few moments. People often said that I am clever, but am I? And if I am, then how did I come to be that way? I don't know. I can't tell. I think that you are. I think you're wonderful. Ermengarde did not know why a lump came in her throat, and her eyes felt as if tears were in them. Lavinia and Jessie are best friends. I wish we could be best friends. You're clever, and I'm the stupidest child in the school, but I do so like you. I'm glad of that. It makes you thankful when you are liked. She stood up from the window and took Ermengarde's hands in hers. Yes, we will be friends, the very best of friends. And I'll tell you what else. A sudden gleam lit her face. I can help you with your French lessons. You can try. Mariette, are you... Oh, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to disturb you. It's quite alright. Are you reading? Wait, that book. I've seen it before. It was the same familiar copy of Poems Antiques. Your friend Ermengarde, St. John, made a gift of it to me. She thought I might appreciate a volume de poésie française to feel more at home. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't think of it. Would you like me to buy you more books in French? I don't mind. None, mademoiselle. I am content. But it was very kindly thought of Ermengarde's for such a young girl to notice and think of a maid, one who was not in her employ. Many would not. Ermengarde is very nice. I did not even consider Mariette. I wanted that book for myself, but Ermengarde has seen the person who would benefit from it most. Ermengarde's a gangster like that. Alright, so our sympathy is like a little too powerful now. So I think we're gonna do some extra dance because we need that grace, bro. We need some grace. Dancing. Writing. Oh man. Oh, it's more writing. Okay. Okay, we got a little bit of grace. We got a little bit of grace. I'll take that. Alright, so we have some knowledge. Way too much artistry. A lot of vigor. Patience is like maxed almost. We got some grace finally, and we got some belief. Okay, you know, we're pretty good. We're pretty good. Like, everything's like maxed, and the two things that are low are still like half full. That's not bad. Sarah was resting in her room with a book when there came a quiet knock on the door. Sarah, mama. What is it, Lottie? Have you come for tea? Maria has promised us a special treat. Apricot sandwiches. Oh, yes. No. Sarah, mama, you like school, don't you? I don't know. It was something she had previously spent a great deal of time deciding. After all, whether I like it or not, I am here now. I don't think I could say that I don't like it. Everyone is kind to me and my rooms are pleasant. No, I meant school, with books and numbers and remembering things. Oh yes, I like books very much. Could you help me with my lessons? Because it's hard to pay attention and then Miss Minchin scolds me. I don't like it when she says my name like that. Miss Lay. I don't like it. But you make everything interesting. Of course I'll help you with your schoolwork, but you still have to learn it. Alright. We still haven't unlocked the sixth person. And I do think that the sixth person is probably going to be that poor person that we met. It's most likely a girl, even though it looked like a boy. Alright, so I could do Jesse or I could do Ermengarde, which is a tough choice because I like them both. I think I'm going to pick Jesse, though, only because she has so many requirements that I feel like we may as well do it while we have the stats. And then we can do Ermengarde later, because hers is like a little less demanding. So I think we'll be good for those stats. So let's do Jesse and see what happens. As Sarah walked through the front hall of Miss Minchin's seminary, she heard a strange thumping noise coming from the classroom, which should have been empty at such an hour. Has something fallen? Opening the door, she found Jesse in mid-leap, practicing dance moves in the unused space. Oh. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to startle you. That's alright, come in and close the door. Sarah took a seat on one of the foreign benches. You like dancing, don't you? All young ladies dance. She pressed the palm to her chest and sighed dramatically. In the ballroom, the beautiful but impoverished daughter of faded nobility can catch the eye of a landed gentleman, and a perfect match will be made. If you have 2 left feet, then beware. You might be sent home in disgrace. Sarah laughed, swinging up her feet to demonstrate their clumsiness, even though she was privately skeptical. I don't think they spelled skeptical right, and I think skeptical was what they were going for. Surely no one would be rude enough to tell a lady to her face that she was a dreadful dancer and unworthy to be present. Well, perhaps Lavinia would. And Jessie might agree with her. She usually agrees with whatever Lavinia says. But Sarah, I was wondering, what sort of dancing do they have in India? The natives, I mean. I'm sure people like that don't have ballrooms, but there must be something. Everyone likes to dance sometimes, even servants. I don't know very much about it. My papa's friends said that the dances the natives do are called Nautch, and that they are impolite, and therefore the British are trying to make them stop. I've never seen such a dance. I'm not sure what makes a dance impolite. Being danced by a girl who's too pretty? In the opera ballet, the patrons demand pretty girls for the stage, but then because they are pretty and performing for the eyes of men, they sometimes call them not very nice things. I suppose India is not so different after all. Or perhaps my papa's friends did not know the truth. My eyes had said that the native dances are called Kathak, and that they dance in the temples to tell stories about their gods. That sounds pretty cool. I would have liked to see a story told in dance, but my ayah said it took many years of training and she could not show me. The ballet tells stories too, but I can't imagine that Indian dance is anything like ballet. With a sigh, Jessie swept her long hair away so that she could sit beside Sarah. I do love to dance, especially ballet. It would be lovely to be a ballerina on stage, admired by everyone. But no English girl could ever be a great ballerina. Everyone knows that it is the French and Italians who make the best dancers. You are half French, Sarah. Do you have any hidden dancing talents? I don't think so. Maybe you don't know all of your talents yet. I'm sure I don't. I believe that we all have talents and strengths that we don't know, that we will discover when we need them the most. That's the way the stories work. It's magic. But I don't think that dancing is going to be one of my talents. You do like to tell stories. Maybe you should try telling a story and dance. Sarah thought for a while, then walked to the center of the room and raised her arms over her head in a graceful curve, like the ballet fifth position. Once upon a time, there was a prince who was also the sun. Girls, get around if you please. As the weather is particularly pleasant today, we'll be taking carriages to the park for extended riding lessons. Please dress accordingly. Oh, thank goodness, it's been too long. I've never greatly cared for horses. It is fashionable and a lady should know at least the basics. But it is simply not comfortable. Do you ride, Sarah? I would not truly say that I ride, but I have met horses and been in the saddle once or twice. Well, I'm sure you'll learn. You learn everything after all. I do try. I like riding. I wish we could go further than the park, though. It is more pleasant to be on horseback in the countryside. Oh, I agree. It is much lovelier. Imagine being on horseback, galloping across the wild moors, long hair streaming behind you, like a warrior queen of old. Riding astride like some hoyden. Even Boadicea rode in a chariot. I think I should like a chariot. Just then, the discussions were interrupted by the sound of a wailing child. Miss Minchin was attempting to bring little Lottie together with the older girls, much to her displeasure. I won't go, I won't. Whatever ridiculous noise you are making, stop that at once. Shan't. You're more than old enough to begin learning. Every student at this school is expected to. I hate horses, I won't. I will, oh. She's gonna start crying. Flinching and covering their ears with their hair, the other girls slipped away to change into riding dress. Only Sarah remained. If you don't behave, you shall be whipped. Just as a horse would be. No! To Sarah's surprise, Lottie suddenly broke free of Miss Minchin and rushed to Sarah, covering behind her and pressing her wet face into the fabric of Sarah's dress. Is this more than just a tantrum? Miss Minchin, please, could you let me talk to her alone? Dear Sarah, you're very kind, but we simply do not have time for these shenanigans. If you can make her mind swiftly, then do so, but it must be done. Shaking her head, she walked away. Lottie wiped her grubby hands across her face. Her shrieks had quieted, but her eyes were still little fountains. Lottie, are you afraid of horses? Yes. Well then, no wonder that you are upset. This cheerful justification startled Lottie enough to leave her frozen in mid-sniffle, mouth hanging open. Sarah nodded and continued. It is normal to be upset about things that frighten you. Only, I think it also normal to try and make yourself less frightened, if you can. You wouldn't want to be afraid forever. Horses are very large, but they can also be kind and sweet. They like apples and carrots, and being petted, just like cats do. Lottie now seemed more confused than distraught. Perhaps today you should just go and meet the horses. Then you can come back and play with Tybalt. What? What if Lavinia won't let me? Then we shall wait until she is not looking, and while we wait, I'll tell you about the horse who rescued a lost prince. She held out her hand, and after a moment, Lottie took it. A new weekday activity is now available. Sarah can use her free time to help the younger students with their schoolwork by choosing the tutoring option. Okay. And what does tutoring get us? Patience and knowledge. It's not quite what we need right now. Our sympathy is maxed. We need a lot of grace. Our grace went from 5 to 0. You know why? I think the stats go down when you use them to go on a date with a girl. So, like, our sympathy is still 10 because when we hung out with Jesse, we didn't need any sympathy. But we had 5 grace and we needed 5 grace to hang out with Jesse. So I think that's why the stats went down, because it's like a cost. And that's also why artistry doesn't often go down unless I need it for a date. So that's also good to know, and I wish I had known that sooner. But it's fine knowing it now, at least. When Sarah came down the stairs, she found Jessie holding a most curious item. It resembled a long wooden spoon, though somewhat thicker in the shaft, and with a solid round end instead of a bowl.
What are you doing with that? Jessie turned the object over in her hands. Oh, Sarah. Isn't it interesting? It's from India. I know. I've heard there are societies for gentlemen and ladies, separate of course, where they all have wooden clubs like these and swing them to strengthen their arms. Or even throw them at each other. Isn't that quaint? Are you sure they throw them at each other? In India, the jugglers throw them up into the air and catch them again. Oh, I don't know. She looked at the solid wooden shape she held, then up at Miss Minchin's painted ceiling. Perhaps I ought not to try that. Where did you get it from? Lavinia gave it to me. For a moment she cradled the club in her arms as if it were a doll. She wouldn't tell me anything about it, though. She told me to take it, if I was so interested, and she would say nothing more. Jessie let the length dangle down from her hand and swung it gently back and forth. It doesn't seem like such hard work. Her eyes glinted for a moment with strange emotion. Imagine the blow if you struck a man with this. What? Why? Oh, it was a foolish thought, nothing more. I was thinking of chariots and queens. We are not soldiers and have no need to defend ourselves. There are brave men for that job. Like my papa. Yes. You're lucky to have such a father. Sarah smiled, pleased to accept any compliments for her beloved papa, and thought nothing more of it. Okay, so we need a lot more grace and apparently a lot more artistry. In the meantime, if I want to invest the belief, I think I could do that without much risk. So we could hang out with Mariette again. Come and see, come and see. Ah, mademoiselle, you do not need to tug at me. It is a promise, I will follow. Her hand still held in Sarah's, Mariette stepped into the classroom. I'm very sorry I was too excited. That's quite alright then. Now, what was it that you wished to show me? Well, as it happens, it is more what I wished for you to show me. Miss Minchin keeps a globe in the schoolroom. I was hoping that you could show me where in France you were born. Ah, if it so pleases you, mademoiselle. I do not think that it will make much impact for you, though. The distance between one city and another, compared to the world, it is not so much. Dutifully, she turned the globe to bring France into view. Somewhere near here, I believe, would be Limoges. Sarah followed Mariette's finger, then smiled to herself. You were right, it does not tell me anything more than I already knew. Could you show me where you lived in India? Who is not yet available girl? Is she unlockable girl, DLC girl, or need update game? I think it's going to be a character that probably comes later in the story. That's what I think. And I think it's probably going to be the poor girl that we gave money to, that we gave the 6 pence to. But all of that is just a theory. Sarah tilted her head and considered Mariette curiously. You're very different from an Indian servant. My Aya was always kind to me, but she would never tell me if I were doing something wrong, or making a mistake. Even if I asked for her opinion, she would always say that I was right. It was very confusing sometimes, and so I learned to ask my papa when I needed to know something. Your papa wrote of you that you were a clever and curious child who was eager to learn and who would appreciate having the reasons explained to you. Yes, that is just so. It was another sign of how much her papa had considered her needs and well-being, and it made Sarah feel warm to think it. Every time Mariette speaks to me, it is a gift from my papa. I do miss my Aya sometimes, and the other servants from our home. They were always a part of my life, even the ones that worked directly for my papa and did not speak to me. They were familiar. I wish that I could see them again. All of my life, I suppose my life hasn't really been that long, has it? But for all my life I always knew that I would have to go away, like other children did. The climate of India is very bad for British children, so we must return to England and go to school. That is what everyone says. I wonder, is the climate of England very bad for Indian children also? Perhaps that is why none of them traveled with us here. Perhaps that is so. If, as you say, the climate is very different, then it could be very difficult to adjust. However, mademoiselle, it is also very possible that they do not wish to travel so far from the homes and families that they love. Oh yes, I didn't think of that. I would not wish to leave either. If I had the choice, I would rather be at home, with my papa. It's very difficult to leave behind all that you have known and travel to a foreign land. But, this is a foreign land to you. Wasn't it difficult to leave your family and your home in France? Mariette's smile was enigmatic. Who can say? Perhaps it is for the best, in the best of all possible worlds.
Well, that's a very mysterious answer. Once again, Miss Minchin prepared to lead her students back from the church to the safe confines of the seminary. However, it so happened that on this Sunday, she caught sight of someone with whom she had business to conduct. Keep together now, girls. Form a line and wait here. Lavinia, dear, I'm counting on you to maintain order. I will be only a few minutes. Yes, Miss Minchin. As Miss Minchin walked away, Lavinia raised her chin with pride. She did not notice the conversations going on around her. Look, Sarah, Mama, why is that tower so high? That is where they keep the church bells. They lift them up high so that they can be heard from far away. There's a man who lives up there, the tower keeper. It is his job to watch over the bells and keep them clean and ready to ring. He lives there? He never comes down? Sarah did not know how the tower keeper spent his days, but she had heard of wise men in India who kept vigils, and of Christian stylites who lived atop pillars. No, never. The priests bring him food and water, so that he never has to look down. He tends the bells, and he thinks about God. Because he's so high up in the sky, sometimes, if he is very lucky, the clouds part and he can almost catch a glimpse of the land beyond. The shining city and the fields of lilies? At this point, Lavinia noticed the two of them standing with their necks craned back. Sarah Crew, whatever are you doing? You are gawking like foreigners. Sarah and Lottie lowered their heads, though not in Lottie's case, without protest. We are looking up at heaven, where our mamas are. They live in a city with golden streets and fields of lilies that everyone gathers. They watch over us and whisper to us, and they visit the man in the bell tower, Sarah told me. You wicked thing, making up fairy stories about heaven. There are much more splendid stories in Revelation. How do you know mine are fairy stories? You're lying. You didn't get that story from the Bible. Read it for yourself. Streets of gold and gates of pearl, and many more things besides. Perhaps the lilies are my own invention, and perhaps they aren't. But I can tell you, you'll never find out whether they are or not if you're not kinder to people than you are now. What? But Sarah, perhaps feeling a bit ashamed of her burst of unheavenly temper, turned her head and refused to respond. Woo, finally! Telling her like it is. Alright, we do need more belief and artistry, so I don't think this is bad. And we obviously need more grace, so I think we can stick to these activities for now. Dancing got me nothing. Now it got me something. Why did it get me nothing on the first day? I hate when that happens. It got me nothing twice. Why does that keep happening? Well, that's a stinker. Alright guys, this is where I'm going to end stream for today. I'm going to be streaming this game again next Sunday at the same time. So if you're enjoying it, feel free to stop by next Sunday. I know I'm very much enjoying it. Glad that I got the game. Very easy to read. I also like how each part of the story is like in very short, like maybe 3-minute chunks. Because you don't really get tired of any of the scenes since they don't drag on. And that makes it a lot easier to sort of want to keep reading along and keep pushing on and keep getting new scenes with. So I think in many ways, in terms of the dialogue choices and the way the plot is presented and just the characters themselves, like this is a very well done visual novel thus far. So hopefully you guys join back next week. Eat well, sleep well, take care of yourselves. Thanks to everyone who left a like on the stream. Thanks to everyone who's been chatting. Devarain, I know that you're still here for sure, so I hope you have a nice rest of your weekend and a good week. Take it easy, everyone.